Failure is something we've all met at some point in our lives. It shows up uninvited, often when we're already tired, already unsure, already questioning ourselves. One bad result, one rejection, one mistake, and suddenly it feels like everything we worked for has collapsed. In that moment, failure doesn't just hurt our plans, it attacks our confidence. It whispers that we're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough to keep going. But here's the truth most people never tell you. Failure is not a dead end. It's a classroom. And every person who has ever achieved real success has spent time sitting in it. When something doesn't work out, our first instinct is to see it as proof that we should stop. We think, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I'm not meant to succeed, but failure is not a verdict on your potential. It's feedback on your approach. It shows you what didn't work, what needs improvement, and where growth is required. If success were easy and immediate, it would teach you nothing. It's the struggle, the missteps, and the wrong turns that build the skills and strength you need to move forward. Think about how we learn anything in life. As children, we fall again and again before we learn to walk. We don't sit on the floor after the first fall and decide walking isn't for us. We stand up, wobble, fall again, and keep trying because falling is part of the process. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we forget this simple truth. We start expecting perfection from ourselves, and when we don't meet that impossible standard, we label ourselves as failures instead of learners. Failure forces you to pause and reflect. It makes you ask questions you wouldn't ask otherwise. What went wrong? What can I do differently next time? What skill do I need to develop? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are powerful. They turn pain into progress. Without failure, there is no self-awareness. Without self-awareness, there is no real growth. Many people admire successful individuals without realizing how many times they failed behind the scenes. The stories we hear are polished and inspiring, but the journey itself is messy, full of doubt, mistakes, and setbacks. Success is rarely a straight line. It's a series of attempts, failures, adjustments, and renewed efforts. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't talent or luck. It's the willingness to learn from failure instead of running from it. Failure also builds resilience. Every time you face disappointment and choose to continue, you strengthen your ability to handle pressure. You become mentally tougher. You learn that even when things go wrong, you survive. And that realization changes everything. Fear loses its power when you know you can endure failure and still stand. The more you fail and keep going, the less frightening failure becomes. It's important to understand that failure doesn't mean you're moving backward. Sometimes it means you're pushing your limits. Sometimes it means you're trying something bigger than what you've ever attempted before. Staying in your comfort zone may protect you from failure, but it will also keep you small. Growth demands risk, and risk always comes with the possibility of falling short. There will be moments when failure feels personal, when it feels like a reflection of who you are. In those moments, remind yourself that you are not your mistakes. You are not your worst day. You are not the outcome of a single attempt. You are a work in progress, and progress is rarely comfortable. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Try asking, what is this trying to teach me? That shift in mindset transforms failure from an enemy into a guide. It helps you move forward with clarity instead of bitterness. Lessons learned through failure stay with you far longer than lessons learned through easy wins. So when life knocks you down, and it will, don't see it as a signal to stop. See it as an invitation to learn, to adjust, and to grow stronger. Take the lesson, carry it with you, and use it to move forward with more wisdom than you had before. Because failure is not the end of your story. It's the part that prepares you for what comes next. Falling is part of being human. No matter how strong, prepared, or confident you are, life has a way of knocking you off balance. It happens to everyone. The difference is not in who falls and who doesn't, because everyone does at some point. The difference is in what happens next. What truly defines you is not the fall itself, but the decision you make afterward. Getting up is where character is revealed, where purpose is tested, and where success quietly begins to take shape. When you fall, it's easy to stay down. Staying down feels safer. It avoids embarrassment, criticism, and the risk of failing again. The ground can feel strangely comfortable because it asks nothing of you. But comfort on the ground comes at a cost. Nothing grows there. Nothing changes there. Staying down slowly turns a temporary setback into a permanent situation. Getting up, on the other hand, demands courage. It requires you to face the same challenge again with bruises, doubts, and fear, but also with experience. Every fall carries a message. But that message only becomes useful if you rise and continue. If you fall and never get back up, the fall controls the rest of your life. But when you stand again, you take control back. You say to yourself and to the world that this moment does not get to define you. That single act of standing up shifts something inside you. It rebuilds self-respect. It reminds you that you are stronger than the moment that tried to break you. Most people don't quit because they fall once. They quit because they fall repeatedly. The second fall hurts more than the first. The third one makes you question yourself. By the fourth or fifth time, you start wondering if it's even worth it anymore. That's when getting up matters the most. Not when it's easy, not when you feel confident, but when you're tired of trying and tired of believing. Anyone can stand up when hope is high. True strength is standing up when hope is almost gone. Getting up doesn't mean you pretend nothing happened. It doesn't mean you ignore the pain or rush forward without reflection. Getting up means acknowledging the hurt and moving anyway. It means carrying the scars without letting them slow your steps. Each time you rise after a fall, you don't return as the same person. You return wiser. You return more aware of your limits and your strengths. You return with a deeper understanding of what it takes to keep going. Life doesn't reward perfection. It rewards persistence. You don't have to win every time. You don't have to get it right on the first try. You just have to refuse to stay down. Success is often nothing more than the result of someone who got up one more time than they fell. While others stopped because it became uncomfortable or uncertain, they kept moving, even slowly, even imperfectly. Here will be people who watch you fall and assume you're finished. Some will even remind you of your failures, intentionally or unintentionally. They'll say things like, "You already tried that," or "Maybe it's time to move on." But those voices don't know your capacity. They don't feel your calling. They don't carry your dreams. Only you decide whether a fall is a full stop or just a comma. Getting up also builds momentum. The first step after a fall is always the hardest. It feels heavy, awkward, and uncertain. But once you take it, the second step becomes easier. Then the third. Slowly, movement replaces fear. Progress replaces doubt. And one day, you realize that the fall that once felt so big is now just a small part of a much larger journey. Sometimes getting up doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't always mean a big comeback or a loud victory. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's simply choosing to try again tomorrow. Sometimes it's showing up when you feel like hiding. Those quiet decisions matter more than you realize. They are the foundation of resilience. And resilience is the backbone of success. No matter how many times you've fallen, the option to get up is always available. As long as you're breathing, as long as you're here, it's not over. The fall may slow you down, but it does not disqualify you. It only proves that you were brave enough to try. So fall if you must, stumble if you have to, but never make peace with staying down. Get up again and again, because getting up is what turns ordinary people into unstoppable ones. Motivation is a powerful feeling, but it is also unreliable. It shows up when you watch an inspiring video, hear the right words, or imagine the future you want. In those moments, everything feels possible. You feel energized, focused, and ready to change your life. But motivation has a weakness. It fades. It disappears when things get difficult, when results take longer than expected, or when life interrupts your plans. That's why relying on motivation alone is risky. The people who actually succeed understand something deeper. Consistency matters far more than how motivated you feel. Consistency is what carries you on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. It's what keeps you moving when excitement has been replaced by routine and effort feels repetitive. Motivation is emotional, consistency is intentional. One depends on how you feel, the other depends on the choices you make. and feelings change every day. Some mornings you wake up ready to conquer the world, and other mornings you struggle just to get started. If your progress depends on your mood, your growth will always be unstable. Think about how real progress happens. It's rarely the result of one big dramatic effort. It's built through small actions repeated over time. A single workout doesn't make you strong. A single study session doesn't make you knowledgeable. A single attempt doesn't make you successful. What creates results is showing up again and again, even when the effort feels boring or invisible. Consistency compounds. What seems small today becomes powerful over weeks, months, and years. Many people wait to feel motivated before they act. They tell themselves they start when the timing feels right, when they feel confident, when they feel inspired. But that moment rarely comes. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. When you take even a small step forward, momentum follows. You begin to feel capable again. You regain belief in yourself. Consistency builds confidence because it proves through action that you can be trusted to show up for your own goals. Consistency also teaches discipline, and discipline is freedom. When you commit to a routine, you remove the daily struggle of decision-making. You don't have to debate with yourself whether or not to try today. You've already decided. That mental clarity saves energy. Instead of fighting your own resistance, you channel your energy into progress. Over time, what once required effort becomes a habit, and habits carry you forward even on your weakest days. There will be days when consistency feels pointless, days when you work hard and see no results, days when it feels like you're doing everything right and nothing is changing. Those are the moments when most people quit. They assume their effort doesn't matter because the reward isn't immediate. But growth often happens quietly beneath the surface. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean it isn't happening. Roots grow before trees rise. Consistency is about trusting the process, even when the outcome isn't visible yet. Another powerful truth about consistency is that it lowers the fear of failure. When your focus is on showing up rather than being perfect, mistakes lose their power. You're no longer trying to win in one attempt. You're committed to improvement over time. That mindset makes challenges less intimidating and setbacks easier to handle. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What's my next step?" Consistency doesn't require you to do everything at once. It requires you to do something regularly. Even slow progress is progress. Even imperfect effort counts. What matters is that you keep moving. Missing one day doesn't ruin your journey, quitting altogether does. Consistency is not about never falling off, it's about always getting back on. Over time, consistency shapes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. That shift is powerful. When you believe you are consistent, your actions naturally align with that belief. You become dependable to others, but more importantly to yourself. And self-trust is a foundation for long-term success. So don't wait for motivation to save you. Use it when it comes, but don't depend on it. Build routines, make small commitments, and honor them daily. Show up when it's easy, and especially when it's not. Because long after motivation fades, consistency is what will still be carrying you forward. Pain is something most people try to avoid at all costs. We're taught to seek comfort, to look for shortcuts, to escape anything that feels heavy or difficult. So when the journey towards success starts to hurt, when effort turns into exhaustion and hope feels distant, the natural response is to want out. Pain convinces you that something is wrong, that maybe you chose the wrong path, that maybe stopping would bring relief. And yes, quitting would end the pain, but it would also end the possibility of becoming who you were meant to be. Pain is temporary by nature. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It rises, it challenges you, and then it passes. Quitting, however, has a different effect. Quitting doesn't just stop the pain in the moment. It locks you into regret. It replaces temporary discomfort with a permanent question mark. What if I had kept going? That question has a way of staying with you far longer than any struggle ever could. Every meaningful goal demands discomfort. Growth stretches you beyond what's familiar. And stretching is never painless, whether it's mental pressure, emotional exhaustion, physical fatigue, or self-doubt. Pain is part of the process. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something difficult. Pain is often a signal that you're evolving, that you're stepping into unfamiliar territory where growth actually happens. Quitting feels appealing in the moment because it offers immediate relief. The weight lifts, the pressure eases, and the struggle pauses, but that relief is short-lived. Soon it's replaced by frustration, self-blame, and the quiet disappointment of knowing you walked away from something that mattered to you. The pain of discipline and effort may be intense, but it's honest. The pain of regret is subtle, slow, and far more lasting. There will be moments when pain makes you question your strength. You'll wonder how much longer you can keep going. You'll compare yourself to others and feel behind. You'll think about all the easier paths you could take instead. In those moments, remember this: pain does not mean you are weak. It means you are trying. It means you are pushing past limits that once defined you. Pain also teaches you resilience. Each time you endure discomfort without quitting, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. That realization is powerful. It changes how you see future challenges. What once felt impossible begins to feel manageable. What once scared you loses its grip. Pain builds a kind of inner strength that comfort never can. Quitting, on the other hand, slowly erodes confidence. Each time you give up when things get hard, you teach yourself that discomfort is something to run from. Over time, even small challenges start to feel overwhelming. The threshold for pain lowers and fear grows louder. Quitting doesn't protect you, it weakens you. It's also important to remember that pain is not permanent, but success requires persistence. The struggle you feel today will not last forever. Circumstances change, skills improve, confidence grows. But if you quit, you remove yourself from the process entirely. You guarantee that the effort you've already invested will never reach its full potential. Sometimes pain doesn't come from the work itself, but from loneliness, doubt, or lack of support. There will be times when no one sees your effort, when progress goes unnoticed, and when encouragement is scarce. That kind of pain can feel especially heavy. But those moments are shaping you in ways that applause never could. They teach you how to move forward without validation, how to believe in yourself when no one else is clapping. Endurance doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It means acknowledging it and choosing not to let it control your decisions. It means saying, "This hurts, but it won't last forever." It means trusting that the version of you on the other side of this struggle will be stronger, wiser, and more capable because you stayed. Every successful person you admire has felt this pain. They've wanted to quit. They've questioned their choices. They've stood at the edge of giving up and decided to take one more step instead. That step didn't remove the pain instantly, but it kept the dream alive. And that made all the difference. So when the pain feels overwhelming, remind yourself that it is temporary, but quitting is not. Stay with the discomfort. Let it shape you, not stop you, because the pain you feel now will fade, but the strength you gain by not quitting will stay with you forever. There will come a time in your life when the applause goes quiet, when the messages stop, when the encouragement you hoped for doesn't arrive. You look around expecting someone to remind you that you're capable, that you are on the right path, and instead you're met with silence, or worse, doubt. This is the moment that defines most journeys. Not when support is loud, but when belief has to come from within. Believing in yourself when no one else does is one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. It feels unnatural, almost uncomfortable, because humans are wired to seek validation. We want reassurance that we're doing the right thing. We want proof that our effort is worth it. But sometimes that proof doesn't show up until much later. Sometimes belief has to come first. People may doubt you for many reasons. Sometimes they don't understand your vision. Sometimes your goals don't make sense to them. And sometimes your growth threatens their comfort. Their doubt doesn't always come from malice. It often comes from limitation. They see the world through their own fears, their own experiences, their own failures. When they say you can't, what they often mean is they couldn't. There will be moments when even the people closest to you question your choices. They might suggest safer options, easier paths, more realistic dreams. They may think they're protecting you, but safety and growth rarely exist in the same place. If you rely on others to believe in you before you move forward, you will spend your life waiting. Self-belief is not arrogance. It's not pretending you have all the answers or denying your weaknesses. Real self-belief is quiet, it's steady. It's the inner voice that says, I don't know exactly how this will work out, but I trust myself enough to try. It's choosing to move forward, even when confidence feels shaky, because your commitment is stronger than your doubt. There will be days when your own belief wavers, when the doubts grow louder than your dreams, when failure, rejection, or slow progress makes you question everything. In those moments, self-belief isn't about feeling strong. It's about remembering why you started. It's about holding on to the version of you who dared to begin, even when the road ahead was unclear. Believing in yourself means giving yourself permission to grow at your own pace. It means not measuring your worth by someone else's timeline. It means understanding that being underestimated does not make you incapable. Some of the most powerful transformations happen quietly, unseen, until suddenly they can no longer be ignored. When no one believes in you, you learn how to become your own support system. You learn how to encourage yourself when motivation fades. You learn how to keep promises to yourself even when no one is watching. That kind of belief builds inner strength that external validation never could. There's something powerful about continuing to show up when no one expects you to. When people assume you've given up, moved on, or failed quietly, each step you take without applause strengthens your resilience. It teaches you to work without recognition, to focus without distraction, and to grow without approval. Self-belief also protects you from comparison. When you truly trust your path, other people's progress no longer feels like a threat. You stop asking why their journey looks easier or faster. You understand that success is not a competition. It's a commitment to your own growth. Believing in yourself doesn't mean you'll never feel afraid. Fear will still show up. Doubt will still knock. But belief decides who gets to stay. It decides whether fear becomes a stop sign or just a reminder that what you're doing matters. And here's the truth: no one will believe in you forever. Even those who support you now may fall away. Circumstances change, people change, but if your belief depends on others, it will always be fragile. When belief comes from within, it becomes unshakable. One day, people may look at you and say you were lucky, or that it was easy for you, or that you always believed in yourself. They won't see the nights you questioned everything. They won't see the times you stood alone, choosing to keep going when no one was cheering, but you'll know. And that will be enough. So when you feel unseen, unsupported, or doubted, remember this: belief doesn't need permission. It doesn't need witnesses. It only needs you to choose it again and again, because when no one else believes in you, your belief is what keeps the dream alive. There is a moment on every journey when stopping feels logical, when quitting feels reasonable. You've given time, energy, and effort, yet the results still haven't shown up the way you hoped. You start wondering if all this work is leading anywhere at all. This is the moment that quietly separates those who succeed from those who don't. Not talent, not luck, just the decision to keep going a little longer. Most people give up too early, not because they aren't capable, but because they mistake delay for denial. They assume that if success hasn't arrived yet, it never will. But effort works in ways we can't always see. Progress often happens in layers beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible. By the time results show up, they've already been forming for a while. Quitting just before that breakthrough is one of the most common and costly mistakes. Success rarely announces itself in advance. It doesn't send a signal saying, "One more step and you're there." Instead, it tests you. It watches how you respond when you're tired, discouraged, and unsure. It asks, Will you keep going even now? Many people stop at the exact point where persistence would have paid off, not knowing how close they really were. Keeping going doesn't always feel heroic. Sometimes it feels slow, repetitive, and lonely. Sometimes it means doing the same thing again, with no guarantee that it will work this time either. But each effort adds up. Each attempt sharpens your skills. Each setback refines your understanding. You're not just chasing a result, you're becoming the kind of person who can handle that result when it arrives. There will be days when your effort feels invisible, when no one acknowledges your progress and no milestone marks your growth. Those are the days when it's easiest to believe that stopping won't matter. But it does. Every day you choose to continue, even quietly, you strengthen your discipline and deepen your resilience. Those qualities don't disappear when the journey gets harder. They carry you through. Success is not always a sudden win. Often it's a gradual turning point. One day you realize that what once felt impossible now feels manageable. What once drained you now feels familiar. That shift only happens if you stay long enough for growth to take root. Build slowly, but once it starts moving, it changes everything. Keeping going also means redefining what victory looks like. It's not always about reaching the finish line immediately. Sometimes victory is refusing to quit when quitting would be easier. Sometimes it's learning to stand back up with more clarity than before. Sometimes it's recognizing how far you've already come and deciding not to waste that progress. Doubt will visit you, especially when effort outweighs reward. It will ask if the sacrifice is worth it, if the dream is realistic, if you're strong enough to finish. Doubt is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're close to something meaningful. If what you were doing didn't matter, you wouldn't care this much. Every step you take forward, no matter how small, increases the chance of success. Stopping guarantees failure. Continuing keeps possibility alive. Even when progress is slow, movement is powerful. Time combined with effort creates outcomes that effort alone cannot. One day, persistence turns into proof. The skills you built, the discipline you practiced, the resilience you earned all begin to show. What once required constant effort becomes second nature. And when success finally arrives, it doesn't feel like luck, it feels earned. So when you reach the point where you want to stop, pause instead. Take a breath. Remember why you started. Remember everything you've already survived. Then take one more step, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because success often comes right after the moment you decide not to quit.